Welcome back to Cracking the Code, the podcast where we take government contracting data and a dash of strategy and serve it up so that you can actually use it without needing a government issued decoder ring. I'm Elizabeth, your host, joined by Mon, our lead researcher, and Rena, our industry stat strategist. Today, we're unpacking NAICS 541614, Process Fiscal Distribution and Logistics Consulting Services. We're going to keep this casual, but you'll walk away with tips that you need to steer your pipeline in the right direction. Mon, let's give the folks a quick version. So, what does 541614 actually mean in practice?
Yeah, this next code is actually about consulting side of logistics, supply chain design, distribution planning, transportation optimization, and inventory management. In plain terms, let's see it as helping agencies get the right stuff to the right place at the right time.
And that matters because logistics is invisible until it fails. Even small contracts here can have a huge mission impact. So, for small and mid tier firms, one solid win can open doors to larger programs.
Awesome. So, even though this isn't the largest NAICS, the visibility and credibility upside is outsized. So, this is really where wins get noticed. All right, guys, let's dig in here. Who's buying under this NAICS? Mon, I know that you've been researching this, and we want to know who is actually writing the checks under this NAICS?
Let's see, our data shows that the top spenders were Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and DoD, or what we are knowing it now as Department of War. But we also got solid activity from VA, HHS, DOJ, state, and even NASA. And we saw spending surge in fiscal year 22, fourth quarter, rolling into fiscal year 23 quarter one. Timing that matters for pipeline planning.
And interesting, it's the same NAICS code, but every agency's mission has a different flavor. So, for example, if you take Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, CBP, Customs Border Protection, or Coast Guard, each one of them uses it differently, either for disaster response, border security, surge logistics. Let's take DLA, Defense Logistics Agency, Army, Transcom. They all use it for global supply chain, depot optimization. VA might use it for medical supply, cold chain distribution. Then you go into State Department or Department of Justice, they want to secure global shipments, overseas operations. And NASA might use it for highly specialized mission logistics.
Great. Thank you, ladies. That was awesome information. And I want to have a reminder here, too, for our listeners. When you're pitching your company and your capabilities, it's so important to be specific. So, for instance, you would say, we're targeting Transcom surface distribution or Army depot ops. And don't just say that we're going to go after DHS opportunities. Be specific, like FEMA disaster logistics planning or CBP fleet operations, because that's really where the strategy gets real.
Yes, exactly. And you don't get that level of precision without research. My team and I synthesize hundreds of data points to bring you actionable insights, not just raw numbers. So use that intel to position yourself and your company smarter.
Yeah, and don't forget, look across the broader spectrum of agencies that can be real growth markets here. For example, the VA medical logistics or State Department's global embassy supply chains. Those agencies may be less crowded than the DoD competition that's very high.
Awesome. All right, let's switch gears. Contract vehicles. Mon, give us the highlights.
Most NAICS code 541614 workflows through IDIQs and BPAs, which involve GSA Mass Logistics SINs, Oasis and Oasis Plus, and agency vehicles at DHS, DOD, DOJ, State, and NASA. Civilian side examples include FEMA's Disaster Logistics BPAs, State Department's ILMS contract, and HHS supply chain task orders.
And here's the kicker, because having a seat doesn't always equal work. That's right, Rena.
Yeah, exactly. The strategy is team smart. Hitch a ride with primes on those vehicles, earn past performance, and then prime the next round. Don't settle for paper teaming. Make sure your capability is part of the win story, right? We hear a lot from companies that say, I provided my past performance, but I never saw any work. So it's important that you don't just, as I said, don't settle for paper teaming. But even beyond winning these IDIQs, persistence at task order level is what really helps monetize the vehicle and bring success.
Yes, and our data shows firms that compete consistently at the task order level actually grow, while those who just sit on the vehicle at the end of the day, they fade out.
Absolutely, that makes sense. So this is really not a get on a vehicle and just relax. You need to compete, deliver, measure, and repeat. And that's the true difference here between a line on a resume and then also then just being the real growth engine and truly like getting in and knowing the industry and doing the work.
Yeah, and that level of planning should happen very early. Before you decide to prime on a vehicle, think it through. Do you have the infrastructure and resources to bid on task orders? That should not be an afterthought. And for example, at Proposal Helper, we offer a full PMO support engine for vehicle holders. We evaluate those task orders as they come out, distribute it to all the team members, pull responses, and help determine how will you win those task orders. Companies with systematic processes consistently win higher number of task orders.
Great, ladies. Thank you for that. And I want to shift gears here a little bit. Let's break this down by company size because we know that this playbook isn't one size fit all. So I'm going to start with the small businesses here. So, Mon, I know in your research you've really been digging into this. What have you been finding when it comes to small businesses?
The data shows smalls win more contracts by count, so usually smaller in dollar value. So we have some tips for small businesses. Get on GSA Mass with logistics SINs, chase VPAs. Think FEMA warehousing or BA clinic supply. Second tip, build a two-track wins for CPARs plus targeted team roles and bigger IDBs tasks. Pair with a mentor from a JV and prime bigger work. Don't ignore your set asides. Aid a women owned small business, service disabled but small business, hopes on everything actually matters. And the last tip that I can give you is research down to sub agency level. FEMA logistics planning, BA supply chain, DLA inventory optimization, CBP fleet ops. And again, my team and I have done a lot of this research. Start by downloading the detailed report that goes along with this recording that it's on our website, www.bitxx.com.
Great. Thank you, Mon. So that was the breakdown of the small businesses. So let's shift here into the mid-sized businesses. And so what I mean by that, these are companies that are too small for giant, but too big for small.
These are companies that are stuck in that
Yeah.
middle window, right? They're too big to compete with the small. They're too small to compete with the large businesses. So our advice for the mid-tier space or companies in the mid-tier space is lock in on Oasis Plus. It's coming up. On-ramp is going to open up here soon. And for those who are doing work with the Navy and you're able to push work through to the Seaport Next Gen, these vehicles are lifelines for companies in this NAICS code. Differentiate with agility and depth. You really have to be very agile in servicing under this NAICS code. Mentor some of the smalls through JVs that still gives you a seat in the set aside game. Target recompetes where incumbents are vulnerable, especially VA warehouse operations, HHS supply chains, as well as some of those DoD depots. And with the new administration and the need for efficiency, incumbent contracts are really vulnerable right now. And then add adjacent services carefully, analytics in supply, change management, and some IT services, but don't pivot too far.
Great. Thank you, Raina. All right. We've talked about small. We've talked about mid. Let's get on to those large businesses. Mon, can you tell us what you found here in this research?
Yeah, we actually found some interesting results. Our research revealed that large firms capture the biggest dollars, but they also face the toughest scrutiny. Evaluators expect innovation, subcontracting commitments, and flawless compliance. Big regards, but under a magnifying glass.
Yeah, and prime for these companies, really, their playbook is they have no choice but to prime the mega IDIQs, the State Department's ILMS, FEMA logistics BPAs, DoD log cap. They have no choice but to be primes on these, start planning very early. Even for those mid tiers who are ready to play with the big boys, they really have got to start planning some of this capture 12 to 48 months ahead of time. Over deliver on your small business participation. Even though we're hearing a lot that small business is not as important, the statutory requirements are still there, and deliver on, because if you partner with good small businesses, the largest can then team up on a small business set asides with their partners. Pilot innovations, AI logistics, digital twins, risk dashboards, and time them strategically. These are becoming very important now. As Mon mentioned, these large businesses, what the government is expecting of them is innovation. So you really have to show that. And then, of course, prove that you have a global search capacity with compliant and clear teams.
Thank you. And that's some great information there. I want to shift a little bit here. I want to talk about timing, patterns, and pipeline. So we've seen a spike just like we have seen in all the other NAICS so far. And for our listeners, this is the 10th NAICS code, so you can check out our previous episodes for the NAICS that are relevant to you. All right, little pitch there. But let's get back into NAICS 541614. Mon, what should our listeners plan for in terms of spending patterns?
As we have seen with other NAICS codes, in this case for the NAICS 541614, we recommend to shape your strategy in the first 2 quarters. Expect RFPs between the second quarter and the third quarter, and the awards in the fourth quarter. And of course, be ready for event driven spikes, for example, as it happened during COVID, and the supply chain contracts, hurricane relief logistics, and even global conflicts.
Yeah, exactly. FEMA or state can pivot overnight when a hurricane hits or a crisis erupts overseas. That agility creates opportunities if you're well positioned. So, my pipeline tip: balance the short, mid, and long term plays. Don't chase everything in Q4.
All right. Also, don't forget to save some time for sleep during proposal season. All right. I'm done making jokes, guys. Let's land this thing. What can companies do in the next 90 days to prepare?
After reviewing this data, we recommend 3 essential steps. Maps up agencies to your past performance, list vehicles and primes in those lanes, and pull recompete calendars.
Yeah, and from my side, once you have done what Mon just recommended, book at least 3 capability briefings. The government is very much open for business. They are taking appointments as long as you have a credible capabilities and case to make, they will meet with you. Not just with the government, even with prime contractors. So, homework for you guys: book 3 capability briefings, lock in at least 2 teaming discussions or better, get TAs with real work share. Write some of those case studies with outcome metrics. As we talk about in our street cred, when we have profiled our clients and their credibility, their capabilities, you really have to showcase your work. So start doing that. And if you're small, finalize those certifications for mid tier, prepare for Oasis Plus, it's coming up. And the large, even the unrestricted on ramp is going to be coming up. But really, for those mid tier, I cannot emphasize the importance of that vehicle in the snakes. And then for larges, you really have to start piloting some innovation. So that would be what my suggestion would be for companies.
Well, now that's a to do list that somebody can actually act on. And no, we're not going to add taking out the garbage to it. You can stick to those lists. All right, guys. This has been an awesome episode. NAICS 541614 is where strategy meets execution. Mon, thank you for the data. And Rena, thanks for the playbook. This has been a fun conversation as we pivot to the focus more towards strategy. Don't forget to download our free report. The link is in the description. And if you're listening, don't just admire the numbers, use them. We will see you next time on Cracking the Code.